FemTALK 89 FM Suva was launched as Fiji and the Pacific's first mobile community radio station on May 2004.
As we developed FemLink, that this was about media from the community and back to the community, being very mindful that this was not just about those of us in the capital city, but more importantly the rural women, the women outside of Suva, the women who, when there's only one journalist heading a news desk, they're not going to be asked their opinion because the journalist is chasing the bigger story. Our cycle of production was about producing stories from local communities and then giving it back to them. That women were not just the recipients or the passive consumers of radio programs, of television documentaries, of print material, but were the producers. These were their stories, these were stories about them. And the other thing also was that by developing the media network in these 4 different centers, Ba, Nandi, Lambasa and Nosori, as well as Suva, we're able to share the stories, and then you can suddenly find that a woman's story in Ba is very much connected to a woman's story in Lambasa. It doesn't matter, these women don't have to meet physically, but there is a connection. So when we're talking about our advocacy role, our policy recommendations, by listening to these stories from women in 4 different rural centers, that's making media to make some kind of change. And the change we're looking at is institutional change, the policy changes.
I have been with Family Pacific since 2004 when I attended the first radio workshop, or when we presented with the first radio. And I live in Lambasa. I'm from Vanuatu. When we started in 2004, one thing that was really, I found that was key then was communication, especially at village level, at community level. There were not enough programs or tools that were encouraging communities and women to participate and to be vocal. So with the involvement of Family Pacific in community radio, I saw and I felt that was really important at that time to involve women in talking about the issue. With the work that I was doing then in peace building, we were already doing grouping communities and women to come together in a safe space and talk and try and share about their issues and the concerns that they were facing. But with the use of community radio, that really sort of strengthens it and provided that space where women's voices could be heard across, and not only just being shared at that same space, but communicated throughout.
In November 2011, FemLink Pacific launched FemTALK 89 FM in Lambasa, the first radio station to be operating in Vanuatu.
We started off with just me recording women's stories from the mat at their homes and bringing it over to Suva, and that's how it was communicated in the earlier days. And things improved as we also improved with technology. And the significant changes for me now, it's the growth of the organization, especially in its branch to the north as well. Our network also grew. As the organization grew, the participatory level of women also grew in terms of their voices, the way they speak. Majority of them would not speak in English. They started speaking in English. They begin to see the reason why we should be talking, why we should be raising our concerns. And through our communicating on community radio, bringing up issues of water, very basic need kind of issues, and they were beginning to address it. So for me, the significant changes was particularly in terms of the growth of the organization and the changes that was happening to the women within their group, within the communities, as well as our growth in Lambasa.
So I was practically one of the first young women to attend the Generation X project that was in Lambasa. Well, for me personally, it has encouraged me. I've been more confident. Some of the significant changes that I have come through while being in Family Pacific was one when we had our suitcase radio station in 2011, and another change was when I was hosting our first simulcast in 2012. Being part of this has given me the confidence to stand up in front of people and talk.
Changes in FemLink, for example, in Lambasa, like we have the young women volunteers, like who can run the radio by themselves in the office. Ever since I joined Family Pacific from 2011 till 2014, like the number of women are still increasing, and different faces, different club, different experience, different background that they come from, and also the increase in number in young women's participation.
FemLink Pacific has shared our experiences with partners in Tonga and Marshall Island, enabling more women and young women to use community radio as a platform to advance gender equality and promote the rights of women and girls.
First of all, we have a young woman who's very new and did not know this work, but we have, through this work, she's been trained to do media work, and she's been trained to write stories, interview women in Tonga. She's having the opportunity to build up her capacity through this work. It's important that we bring in young women, because young women will take on the work from us, and I'm sure very soon we will be out of the scene, and the young women are coming up, and that is something I strongly believe, that we need to train, that we need to build the capacities of our young women.
My highlight would definitely be being part of this network, and not just the regional network, but also like being part of a global network out there, and also working in the community. Second highlight would be working with the women in the community level and also documenting their stories and see how these stories evolve and how it's translated into the policy language, and also how these stories transformed into recommendations. And also another highlight would be working closely with other regional young women who are part of this network and learning from them and their experiences, and sharing of experiences and learning from each other, and meeting women from various backgrounds and listening to their stories and documenting their stories is a major highlight for me. And also I would like to add that as a young woman, it's quite difficult for young women to raise their issues and share their stories. So this has provided me with a platform to openly speak on matters that affect me greatly.
Community radio programs are also being produced by correspondents in Bougainville and Solomon Island, enabling women of all diversity to define peace, human security, and development.
In Voice Blumere, we have young women working in the organization, and our regional correspondent, Lisa Horiwapu, is also a young woman. And what I've seen in her, since working as a network with the 1325, she has been empowered, and the trainings that we have had through our networks have empowered her in her field in media, in the area of program production, in the areas of documenting women's stories, in the areas of IT literacy, and able to do in-depth interviews. And she had gained skills which are very important for a young woman, and continue to implement 1325.
It's very important to invest in young women, because they will be the future leaders of our countries. And investing in young women, you feel the joy when you see them go up there to represent the country, Like, for example, Luis and Laris, who is the correspondent in Bougainville, was chosen by UNIFEM to represent the young women of the New Guinea Islands region in the consultation that was held in Port Moresby about women's representation, why it was important for women to be represented in the National Parliament of Papua New Guinea. So she was able to make her say about why it was important for women to be represented in government. So I think investing in young women is a way forward for all countries in the region, because these young women will take on the work that all the women are taking up right now.
In 2015, FemLink Pacific is looking forward to expanding FemTALK 89 FM in Suva.
Yes, this is very exciting, as we look at another year of women's-led community radio. The expansion for FemTALK 89 FM Suva will increase our reach. As a result of the approval we now have, we will expand our technical transmission to a 300-watt transmitter from a transmission site in Tamavua, giving us coverage from Navua to Nosori. That's a very substantive coverage, both geographically and in relation to the population numbers. We know that in the Suva to Nosori corridor alone, we're looking at a population of about 300,000. So if you think about women's population in all her diversities, that means our radio programs that are going to be produced will be able to reach more women. We have an opportunity, to do this with the assistance of the Fiji program of the DFAT's Pacific Women Shaping Pacific Development Program, and it comes in line with the opportunity to enhance women's political participation, which is not just about running for elections, although we are looking forward to local government elections. It's also about women's access to information, and that through radio programs, those that are produced with women in communities, but also the opportunity to engage and deliver more information-based programs from civil society, from the government sector as well. Women can be more engaged in accessing services, in being able to understand what's happening with as far as economic empowerment, but also, political participation, as we've been finding with 14 years of FemTALK 89 FM as the mobile station in Lambasa and also in Suva. It's also about women getting a holistic amount of information. So we see this as an opportunity to deliver as a public service station in an environment where we have very highly commercialized radio and broadcasting. So definitely more women, more communities to be reached, and more communities participating in FemTALK 89 FM Suva.
Radio for and by women in their community. FemTALK 89 FM.